Princess Nari stood in the corner of the grand hall, trying to make herself invisible. It was not difficult. At 3 feet tall, she was already invisible to most people in the room. The other aliens towered over her, their voices booming across the metal walls of Crossroads Prime Station. The station floated in neutral space, far from any empire's control. It was built for meetings like this one, where powerful species came together to make deals. Today, those deals involved marriage. Nari's father, Emperor Talon, had brought his children here to find them suitable matches. Political marriages that would strengthen the Velen Empire. Nari watched her sister Mira greet a Krethian warlord. Myra stood 8 feet tall, like most Velen people. Her scales shimmered blue and gold under the lights. The warlord looked impressed. He bowed deeply, and Myra smiled. No one bowed to Nari. No one even looked at her. She was a mistake, her father had said once. A genetic error that made her small and weak. In a galaxy where size meant power, Nari was worthless. She had spent her whole life knowing this truth. But knowing something and feeling it were different things. A group of Nomian merchants passed by. Their gray skin glowed slightly as they talked about trade routes. One of them glanced down at Nari. His face twisted in disgust before he looked away. Nari felt her chest tighten. She moved further into the corner. The summit had been going on for 3 days. Dozens of marriage contracts had been signed. Princes and princesses from across the galaxy had found matches that would benefit their families. Even the lower nobles had been claimed. Everyone except Nari. Her father had stopped introducing her after the first day. There was no point, he said. No one wanted a tiny princess who could not even reach a standard control panel without help. She was an embarrassment to the Velen name. Nari pulled her small cloak tighter around her shoulders. The station's air was cold, or maybe she just felt cold inside. She wondered what would happen to her when the summit ended. Her father had made it clear she could not come home without a contract. Unclaimed attendees would be sent to labor colonies. Even a princess could end up there if no one wanted her. The thought made her stomach hurt. She decided to leave the hall. No one would notice anyway. The observation deck would be empty at this hour. She could watch the stars and pretend she was somewhere else. Anywhere else. NAR. I walked through the curved corridors of the station. Her footsteps made soft sounds on the metal floor. She passed other aliens heading to the hall, but they did not see her. She was too small, too easy to overlook. The observation deck was empty, just as she hoped. Large windows showed the darkness of space, filled with tiny stars. Nari pressed her small hands against the cold glass and stared out. Somewhere out there was her home planet. She wondered if she would ever see it again. Beautiful, isn't it? Nari jumped. She spun around and saw a human standing near the entrance. She had not heard him come in. Humans were new to the galaxy, barely 100 years in space. Most of the older species thought they were primitive and foolish. This human was tall by Nari's standards, maybe 6 feet. He had dark hair and kind eyes. He wore simple clothes, not the fancy outfits most diplomats wore. "I am sorry," the human said. "I did not mean to scare you. I am Jiho Park. I work in trade negotiations for Earth's colonies." Nari nodded, but said nothing. She did not know what to say to a human. Jiho walked closer and stood beside her at the window. He did not tower over her the way other species did. "I have been at this summit for 2 days now," he said, "trying to get mineral rights for my company. It is boring and frustrating. Everyone treats us like children who do not know anything." He smiled, but it was a sad smile. I guess that is what happens when you are new and small in a big galaxy. Something in his words made Nari look at him. He understood. Maybe not exactly what she felt, but something close to it. "I am Nari," she said quietly. "Of the Velen Empire." Jiho's eyes widened slightly. A princess? I am honored. He gave a small bow, but it did not feel mocking. It felt real. They stood in silence for a moment, both looking at the stars. Then Jiho spoke again. Can I ask you something? Why are you here alone? Should you not be at the marriage summit? Nari felt the familiar shame wash over her. No one wants me, she said simply. I am too small. I am a defect. She expected pity or disgust. Instead, Jiho frowned. That is stupid, he said. Nari blinked. No one had ever said that before. Why does size matter so much? Jiho continued. You are a princess. You must be smart and educated. Those things are more valuable than height. Not in my world, Nari said. Not in this galaxy. Jiho shook his head. Then the galaxy is wrong. They talked for an hour. Jiho told her about Earth and the human colonies. He told her how humans were laughed at in galactic councils because they had no ancient history or powerful weapons. But they kept trying anyway. Nari told him about her life in the palace, how she learned politics and history by watching and listening, how she knew more about the Velen Empire's secrets than her siblings because everyone ignored her. Information flowed around Invisible People. When Jiho finally had to leave for a meeting, he smiled at her. It was nice talking to you, Princess Nari. You are more interesting than anyone in that hall. Nari felt something strange in her chest. Warmth, maybe. Hope. The next day, Nari was sitting in the royal box when it happened. A Vorgoth commander was speaking loudly about the summit. His voice carried across the hall. Even the labor colonies do not want the tiny Velen reject, he laughed. What use is a princess you could step on? Other aliens laughed. Nari felt her face burn with shame. She wanted to disappear. Then a voice cut through the laughter. I disagree. Everyone turned. Jiho Park stood in the center of the hall. He looked small compared to the massive aliens around him, but his voice was steady. Princess Nari is worth more than most people in this room, Jiho said. The problem is not her size. The problem is that you are all too stupid to see value when it does not come in a big package. The hall went silent. The Vorgoth commander's face turned dark red. You dare insult me, human? I dare tell the truth, Jiho said calmly. The commander started to move toward Jiho, but Jiho did not back down. You claim to be a great warrior, Jiho said, but you mock someone smaller than you. Where I come from, we have a word for that. Bully. And bullies are cowards. The commander stopped. Other aliens were watching now. If he attacked an unarmed human in the middle of a diplomatic summit, he would look exactly like what Jiho called him. A bully. A coward. The commander turned and walked away, his pride wounded, but his reputation intact. Jiho looked up at the royal box. He found Nari's eyes and smiled. That night, Jiho found Nari on the observation deck again. I heard something today, he said. Unclaimed attendees will be sent to labor colonies tomorrow. The summit ends at midnight. Nari nodded. She had been trying not to think about it. Jiho took a deep breath. I have an idea, he said. It is crazy. You will probably say no, but I have to ask. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. Princess Nari, will you marry me? Nari stared at him. What? I know we just met, Jiho said quickly. I know I am just a human and you are royalty. But I cannot let you go to a labor colony. That would be wrong. And honestly, talking to you these past few days has been the best part of this whole summit. So what do you say? Nari's mind raced. This was insane. Humans were barely accepted in galactic society. Her father would be furious. The other empires would laugh. But Jiho was looking at her like she mattered. Like she was worth something. Yes, Nari heard herself say. Yes, I will marry you. Jiho's face broke into a huge smile. Really? Really, Nari said, and for the first time in her life, she smiled too. The galaxy had no idea what was about to happen. The announcement came the next morning. Jiho Park, human trade negotiator, had signed a marriage contract with Princess Nari of the Violan Empire. The news spread through Crossroads Prime like fire. Emperor Talon stormed into the contract office, his massive form shaking with rage. This is invalid, he roared. My daughter cannot marry a human. They are primitives. The contract officer, a Nomian with gray skin and tired eyes, shook his head. The contract follows all galactic laws, Emperor. It is valid and binding. Then I demand the trial of worth, Talon said. His voice was cold now, controlled. Let the human prove he can provide for a Velen princess. The officer looked uncomfortable. The trial has not been used in 50 years, Emperor. It is considered barbaric by modern standards. But it is legal, Talon said. Is it not? The officer nodded slowly. Yes, it is legal. Nari stood in the corner of the office, watching her father destroy her one chance at happiness. The trial of worth was an ancient custom. A challenger had to fight in the arena against champions from other species. Most challengers died. That was the point. Jiho stood beside her. He had been silent during the whole conversation. Now he spoke. I accept the trial. Everyone turned to look at him. Talon laughed. You will die, human. You cannot possibly win. Maybe, Jiho said. But I am going to try. The trial would take place in 3 days. Jiho was given access to a training room and allowed one advisor. He chose Doyoung Kong, his head of security. Doyoung was a former Earth military officer, tough and smart. Nari was not allowed to see Jiho during the preparation time. It was tradition. She spent those 3 days in her room, unable to eat or sleep. She had dragged Jiho into this. If he died, it would be her fault. On the 3rd day, the arena was full. Thousands of aliens came to watch the human fail. Betting pools gave Jiho a 1% chance of survival. Most bets were on how quickly he would die. The arena was a massive circular space with a dirt floor. Gravity wells and obstacles were scattered around, meant to make fighting more interesting. High walls surrounded the space, with seats rising up on all sides. Nari sat in the royal box with her family. Her father looked satisfied. Her brother Kale smirked. This will be quick, Kale said. Then we can forget this embarrassment ever happened. Nari said nothing. Her hands gripped the edge of her seat. Jiho entered the arena from the south gate. He wore simple armor, human-made. He carried a basic plasma rifle and a short blade. He looked small and fragile compared to the arena's massive size. The announcer's voice boomed. First challenge, victor of the Krethian Dominion. A gate opened on the opposite side. A Krethian warrior stomped out. He was 10 feet tall, covered in thick red scales. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. He carried a massive hammer that crackled with energy. The crowd cheered. This would be over in seconds. The signal sounded. Victor charged forward with a roar. The ground shook under his feet. Jiho did not run. He waited until the last second, then dove to the side. The hammer smashed into the dirt where he had been standing, sending up a cloud of dust. Jiho rolled to his feet and fired his rifle. The plasma bolts hit Victor's armor and bounced off. Victor laughed and swung his hammer again. Jiho ducked under it and ran. The crowd booed. They wanted a fight, not a chase. But Jiho was not just running. He was moving toward one of the gravity wells. These were areas where gravity was 3 times normal, meant to trap fighters. Victor followed him, still laughing. Just before reaching the gravity well, Ji-ho jumped. His momentum carried him over the edge. Victor, running at full speed, could not stop. He crashed into the gravity well and fell to his knees. Crushed by the increased weight, Ji-ho landed on the other side and fired 3 quick shots. Not at Victor's armor, but at the ground beneath him. The dirt exploded, and Victor lost his balance. He fell face first into the dirt. Before Victor could get up, Ji-ho was there. He pressed his blade against the back of Victor's neck, right at the weak point between scales. "Yield," Ji-ho said. Victor, unable to move under the increased gravity, and with a blade at his neck, had no choice. "I yield," he growled. The crowd went silent. The human had won. Nari felt tears on her face. She did not remember starting to cry. The second challenge was worse. A Nomian psychic named Reva entered the arena. Nomians could read thoughts and predict movements. Fighting one was nearly impossible. Reva stood in the center of the arena, her gray skin glowing softly. She did not carry weapons. She did not need them. The signal sounded. Ji-ho raised his rifle, but before he could fire, Reva moved. She was already where his shot would go. His bolt hit empty air. Ji-ho tried again. Same result. Reva was always one step ahead, dodging before he even pulled the trigger. The crowd laughed. This was more like it. Humans were predictable, but then Ji-ho did something strange. He started singing, loudly, madly, an old Earth song about rain and dancing. While singing, he fired random shots in random directions. He spun in circles. He jumped for no reason. Reva's concentration broke. She could not predict chaos. She could not read thoughts that made no sense. One of Ji-ho's wild shots hit her in the leg. Not a fatal hit, but painful. Reva stumbled. Ji-ho stopped singing and charged. He tackled Reva to the ground, his blade at her throat. "Yield," he said, breathing hard. Reva looked up at him with shocked eyes. Then she laughed. "You are insane, human." "I yield. 2 victories." The crowd was not laughing anymore. They were watching. 4 more challenges followed. A Vorgoth warrior with acid blood. A Telenandra with optical camouflage. A brick soldier with armored skin. A Kelmer assassin with poisoned blades. Ji-ho beat them all. Not through strength, but through thinking. He used the environment. He adapted to each opponent. He did unexpected things that confused his enemies. By the 6th victory, the betting odds had changed. People were starting to believe the human might actually survive. The final challenge came on the 2nd day of the trial. Druckus, champion of the Vorgoth military, entered the arena. He was a legend, undefeated in 200 fights. He stood 12 feet tall and carried weapons that could cut through steel. Ji-ho looked exhausted. His armor was damaged. He had burns and cuts all over his body. But he stood ready. The signal sounded. Dracus attacked with brutal efficiency. His blade came down like lightning. Ji-ho barely blocked it. The impact sent him sliding backward. Dracus attacked again and again. Ji-ho could only defend, desperately trying to stay alive. He was outmatched in every way. Everyone in the arena knew it. Then Dracus made a powerful swing that Ji-ho could not block. The blade cut across Ji-ho's chest. Blood sprayed. Ji-ho fell to his knees. Nari screamed. She tried to run to the arena, but guards held her back. Drakus raised his blade for the final strike. But Ji-ho looked up at him. "Wait," Ji-ho gasped. Drakus paused. Killing a defeated opponent was honorable, but killing one who asked to speak was not. "You are a great warrior," Ji-ho said, blood running down his chest. "The greatest I have ever faced. I cannot beat you with strength." "I know that." "You know that," Drakus nodded slowly. But I did not come here to prove I am stronger than you, Jiho continued. I came to prove I will do anything for her. For Nari, I will fight. I will bleed. I will die if I must. Because she deserves someone who will not give up on her. Jiho struggled to his feet, swaying. So I ask you, warrior to warrior, is there honor in killing someone who fights not for pride or glory, but for love? The arena was completely silent. Thousands of aliens held their breath. Drakus stared at Jiho for a long moment. Then he lowered his blade. You are a fool, human, he said. But you are a brave fool. I will not kill someone who has earned my respect. He turned to the judges. I declare this a warrior's draw. The human has proven his worth. The arena exploded with noise. Some aliens cheered. Others argued. It was unprecedented. But the judges agreed. A warrior's draw was valid. Jiho had passed the trial of worth. Later, in the medical bay, Nari sat beside Jiho's bed. He was covered in bandages, but he was alive. She held his hand and cried. I am sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry. Jiho smiled weakly. Do not be. I would do it again. He squeezed her hand. We are really married now. Nari laughed through her tears. We are. Outside the medical bay, the galaxy was starting to talk. A human had survived the trial of worth. That should not have been possible. But it happened, and the galaxy was starting to wonder, what else might humans be capable of? Hanuel Station orbited a blue gas giant on the edge of human territory. It was small compared to the grand cities of the Velen Empire. Only 50,000 people lived there, most of them human colonists and traders. But it was home now. Nari stood at the window of their small apartment, looking out at the stars. After 2 months of marriage, she was still getting used to this new life. Everything was different here. The doors were the right height for her. The furniture did not make her feel like a child. People looked at her when she spoke. Jiho entered the room, carrying 2 cups of tea. His injuries from the trial had healed, leaving only scars. What are you thinking about? He asked. I do not know what to do, Nari admitted. On my homeworld, I was useless. Here, I am just your wife. I have no purpose. Jiho sat down and patted the seat beside him. Nari joined him, and he handed her a cup. You are more than just my wife, he said. You are smart and educated. I could use your help. With what? Nari asked. My trade company, Jiho said. We broker deals between human colonies and alien suppliers. But I am terrible at galactic politics. I say the wrong things. I miss the subtle meanings. I upset people without knowing why. He smiled at her. You grew up in a palace. You know how this all works. Help me. Nari felt uncertain. I do not know anything about business. Then we will learn together, Jiho said. The next day, Nari sat in on her first trade meeting. Jiho was negotiating with a Nomian merchant for medical supplies. The merchant was asking for double the normal price, claiming shortages. Nari watched quietly. She saw how the merchant's skin glowed brighter when he lied. She noticed his assistant's nervous movements. She recognized the symbols on their documents from her studies of Nomian trade law. When Jiho was about to accept the inflated price, Nari leaned over and whispered in his ear. Jiho's eyes widened. He turned back to the merchant. I appreciate your offer, Jiho said, but we both know there is no shortage. The Nomian Council released their production reports last week. Supply is at a 10-year high. So let us talk about a fair price. The merchant's glow flickered. He had not expected humans to know about Nomian Council reports. After that, the negotiation went much better. Over the following weeks, Nari became essential to Jiho's business. She knew which species valued honor over profit. She knew which traditions must be followed and which could be ignored. She knew the hidden connections between families and empires. She was good at this. Really good. Together, they started finding opportunities that larger companies missed. They brokered a deal between a Tellan mining colony and a human farming world. The Tellan needed food, and the humans needed rare metals. Both sides benefited. They connected a bricks manufacturing station with human shipyards. The bricks had superior materials, but poor designs. Humans had creative designs, but poor materials. Together, they made better ships. Word spread. The tiny company run by a human and a Velen princess was making smart deals. They were fair and honest. They helped small colonies and overlooked species. Success brought attention. Good attention and bad attention. One day, a message arrived from the Velen Empire. Prince Kale wanted to meet his sister. Nari's heart jumped. Maybe her family wanted to reconcile. Maybe they were proud of her now. Kale arrived on Haniel Station with a small escort. He was tall and handsome, everything a Velen prince should be. He greeted Nari with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Little sister," he said, "I have been hearing interesting things about you." They met in a private dining room. Jiho wanted to attend, but Nari asked him to let her meet Kale alone. This was family business. Kale wasted no time with pleasant talk. "You are becoming famous," he said. "The tiny princess who married a human. Some people find it inspiring. A story of overcoming limitations. And you?" Nari asked. "What do you find it?" "I find it embarrassing," Kale said flatly. "You are making our family look weak. A Velen princess doing business with primitives and outcasts. Father is not pleased." Nari felt the old shame trying to rise up, but she pushed it down. "I am helping people," she said. "Building connections. Making things better." "You are playing merchant," Kale snapped. "That is beneath you." "Beneath us?" "No," Nari said quietly. "What is beneath me is sitting in a corner being ignored while people like you decide my worth. I am done with that." Kale's face darkened. "Be careful, Nari. You are gaining influence. That makes you a problem. Problems get solved. Is that a threat?" Nari asked. "It is a warning," Kale said. "From your brother who still cares about you. Stop this foolishness. Come home. Accept a quiet life in the palace. You can still have dignity." "I have more dignity now than I ever had in the palace," Nari said. "I will not stop." Kale stood up. "Then you are a fool, and you will regret this." He left without another word. Nari sat alone in the dining room, her hands shaking. That night, she could not sleep. Jiho found her on their small balcony, looking at the stars. "Did it go badly?" he asked. Nari nodded. "Kale is angry. He said I am embarrassing the family. He wants me to stop everything and go back to the palace." "What do you want?" Jiho asked. "I do not know anymore," Nari admitted. "Part of me still wants their approval. Still wants my father to be proud of me." Jiho sat beside her. "Can I tell you something? When I was young, my father wanted me to be a soldier like him. He said traitors were cowards who hid behind words instead of fighting. When I chose this life, he stopped talking to me." Nari looked at him in surprise. She had not known that. "For years, I tried to prove him wrong," Jiho continued. "I worked hard, hoping he would finally be proud. But he never was. He died still thinking I was a disappointment." "I am sorry," Nari whispered. "Do not be," Jiho said. "Because I learned something important. I was living my life for him, not for me. Trying to earn love from someone who would never give it. It was killing me inside." He took her hand. Your family does not define you, Nari. You define you. And you are amazing. You have helped hundreds of people. You have built something real and good. That matters more than what your father thinks. Nari felt tears on her face. What if I am not strong enough to let them go? You are, Jiho said gently. You are the strongest person I know. A few weeks later, another message came. Emperor Talon himself was visiting Hanyul Station for a diplomatic function. He wanted to see Nari. Nari dressed carefully for the meeting. She wore traditional Velen robes, trying to look proper. She met her father in the station's formal reception room. Talon looked the same. Tall, imposing, powerful. He barely glanced at Nari when she entered. Father, Nari said, bowing. Nari, Talon replied. He did not bow back. I have come to discuss your recent activities. Yes, father. You have been making deals with minor species, Talon said. Connecting colonies. Playing at politics. I have been helping people, Nari said. Building alliances. You have been drawing attention to yourself, Talon corrected. People talk about you. The tiny princess who rose above her station. They say you are an inspiration. For a moment, Nari's heart lifted. Maybe he was proud not, then Talon continued. They are wrong. You are an embarrassment. A Velen princess should not be working with humans and outcasts. You lower yourself and our family name with every deal you make. The words hit like physical blows. I have been successful, Nari said weakly. Success means nothing if it comes without dignity, Talon said. You should have accepted your place. A quiet life in the palace would have been acceptable. But this is shameful. He stood to leave. I am disappointed in you, Nari. More disappointed than I have ever been. You had a chance to fade away with some grace. Instead, you chose to parade your defects in front of the entire galaxy. He walked out without looking back. Nari stood frozen in the empty room. She felt hollow inside, like something had broken that could not be fixed. Jiho found her there an hour later. She was still standing in the same spot. Tears dried on her face. Nari? He said softly. She turned to him. He was right, she whispered. I am an embarrassment. I should have stayed small and quiet. No, Jiho said firmly. He walked over and took her shoulders. Listen to me. Your father is wrong. Completely wrong. How can you say that? Nari asked. He is emperor. He knows. He knows nothing about you, Jiho interrupted. He sees what he wants to see. A defect, a problem. But that is his failure, not yours. Jiho cupped her face in his hands. You want to know what I see? I see someone brave enough to leave everything she knew. Someone smart enough to build a business from nothing. Someone kind enough to help people everyone else ignores. I see someone extraordinary. I just wanted him to love me, Nari said, her voice breaking. I know, Jiho said. But you cannot earn love from someone who will not give it. You can only live your life and find people who see your worth. He pulled her into a hug. You have that now. Me, Doyan, Hana and Yoongi, and everyone on this station who respects you. We see you, Nari. Really see you. Nari cried into his shoulder. Not sad tears this time. Releasing tears. Letting go tears. When she finally pulled back, something had changed inside her. Her father's approval had been a weight she carried her whole life. Now she was putting it down. You are right, she said. I have been living for him, trying to prove I am worth something to him. But I already am worth something. To you, to our friends, to the people we help. She smiled through her tears. And to myself. Jiho smiled back. Now you are getting it. That night, Nari sent a message to the Velen Palace. It was short and simple. She would no longer seek her family's approval. She had her own life now, her own purpose. They could accept her or not. It was their choice. She did not expect a reply. She did not need one. Princess Nari had finally found what she was looking for. Not in a palace or empire, but in a small station on the edge of space, with a human who saw her for who she really was. The border crisis started small. A Velen mining ship crossed into Krethian space by mistake. The Krethians detained the ship and demanded payment. The Velen Empire refused, calling it piracy. Words became threats. Threats became military buildups. Within a month, both empires had warships stationed at the disputed border. The Galactic Council held emergency meetings, but nothing was resolved. The Velen and Krethian had been enemies for centuries. Old hatred ran deep. NAR. I watched the news broadcasts with growing fear. If war started, millions would die. Entire colonies would be destroyed. And for what? Pride and old grudges. There must be something we can do, she said to Jiho one night. Jiho was reviewing trade reports, but he looked up. Like what? We are just a small company. The Council has the best negotiators in the galaxy working on this. And they are failing, Nari said. Because they think like the Council always thinks. Old solutions to old problems. She stood up and started pacing. I know both empires. I know what they really want. The Velen need tritanium for their fusion reactors. The Krethian need living space for their growing population. This border dispute is not really about borders. Jiho closed his reports. Go on. It is about resources, Nari continued. Both empires need things the other has. But they are too proud to trade. So they fight over territory that neither one really cares about. So we need to find the resources somewhere else, Jiho said slowly. Remove the reason to fight. Exactly, Nari said. But where? Every good system in this sector is already claimed. Jiho pulled up a star map. He zoomed out, showing hundreds of systems. Most were marked with different colors, showing which empire controlled them. But there were a few gray dots. Unclaimed systems. What about these? He asked, pointing. Nari shook her head. Dead systems? No life. No resources worth the cost of mining. What if we made them worth it? Jiho said. He had that look in his eyes. The same look he had before the trial. Crazy and determined. Made them? Nari asked. Terraformed them, Jiho said. Turned a dead world into a living one. Both empires could share it. The Velen get mining rights. The Krethian get agricultural land. Everyone wins. Nari stared at him. Terraforming takes centuries and costs fortunes. With alien technology, yes, Jiho said. But humans do not use alien technology. We do things differently. Faster, cheaper, more dangerous. He started pulling up files. Look at this. Earth terraformed Mars in 70 years. We are working on Venus now. We use nuclear detonations to jumpstart atmospheric processes. Genetically modified plants that can survive anything. Controlled asteroid impacts to add water. The Council would never approve such risky methods, Nari said. Then we do not ask the Council, Jiho said. We ask the empires directly. Offer them a solution the Council cannot. Over the next week, Jiho assembled a team. Dayun handled security planning. Hana Choi, a brilliant human scientist, designed the terraforming process. Yoongi Lim, an engineer, calculated costs and timelines. They chose a target, a dead world in neutral space called Dalbit. It had the right size and mass. It was close enough to both empires. And most importantly, nobody wanted it. The plan was insane. Use controlled nuclear explosions to create a basic atmosphere Crash ice asteroids into the surface for water. Seed the planet with engineered organisms that would prepare the soil. In 10 years, they promised, Dalbit would be livable. Most species would need 100 years for the same job. But humans were willing to take risks that others would not. The hard part was convincing anyone to listen. Nari used every connection she had built over the past year. She called in favors from minor species. She reached out to moderates in both empires. Slowly, she built support for a meeting. Finally, the Velen and Krethian agreed to hear the proposal. But they would not meet together. Too much bad blood. So Nari and Joe had to present separately, twice. The Velen meeting came first. Emperor Talon led the delegation. Prince Kael sat beside him, smirking. They clearly expected this to fail. Jiho presented the technical details. How the terraforming would work. What it would cost. How long it would take. Hana showed simulations and calculations. The Velen scientists laughed. Impossible, one said. You cannot create an atmosphere in 10 years. It defies physics. It defies your physics, Jiho replied. Humans do things differently. We have already done it on Mars. Mars is a tiny planet with low gravity, another scientist said. Dalbit is Earth-sized. The scale is completely different. So we use more bombs, Jiho said with a shrug. The room went silent. The Velen could not believe how casually humans talked about nuclear weapons. Nari stepped forward. I know this sounds crazy, she said. But humans make the impossible happen. They should have all died in the trial of worth. They should not be able to compete in galactic trade. They should not even be in space yet. But they are, because they do not accept limits. She looked at her father. You can go to war with the Krethian. Fight for centuries. Waste countless lives. Or you can try something new. Let humans do what they do best. Make the impossible possible. Emperor Talon studied her for a long moment. And if they fail? Then you can go to war anyway, Nari said. You lose nothing but time. The Krethian meeting went better. The Krethian respected bold plans and personal courage. When Jiho explained the risks, they nodded approvingly. When he showed them Earth's history of crazy terraforming projects, they were impressed. This is a warrior's plan, their leader said. Bold and dangerous. I like it, but there was a catch. Both empires wanted proof. They would not commit resources until humans showed they could actually do it. Start the project, Emperor Talon said. Show us results in 1 year. If Dalbit has a basic atmosphere, we will support you. If not, we will resume our dispute. It was not ideal, but it was a chance. The team moved to Dalbit within a month. They brought equipment, supplies, and a crew of 200 humans and friendly aliens. Nari and Jiho went with them. This was their plan. They would see it through. The first year was brutal. They detonated nuclear devices deep underground to heat the planet's core. They crashed ice comets into the surface to create oceans. They seeded the atmosphere with oxygen-producing bacteria. Things went wrong constantly. Explosions happened in the wrong places. Calculations were off. Equipment broke down. 3 workers died in an accident with a comet redirect, but slowly, impossibly, it worked. The planet started to change. The atmosphere thickened. Water pooled in low areas. Temperature rose at the 1-year mark. Both empires sent inspection teams. They walked on Dalbit's surface-breathing air that had not existed a year ago. They stood beside pools of liquid water on a planet that had been dead for billions of years. The Velen. Scientists could not explain it. The Krethian warriors called it a miracle. Both empires agreed to support the project, but success made enemies. Prince Kael saw the project as a threat. If humans could solve impossible problems, what did that mean for the old empires? What did it mean for people like him? He began working with conservative factions in other species. Those who liked the old ways. Those who feared change. Nari received warnings from friends. Kale was planning something. But she did not know what the answer came in year 7. By then, Dalbit had green continents. Trees grew. Animals roamed. 10,000 colonists from a dozen species lived there, building cities and farms. It was becoming a real-world dot. Then the atmospheric processors started failing. All of them at once. Not breaking down, sabotaged. The atmosphere began to collapse. Without the processors, the oxygen levels would drop. The temperature would fall. In weeks, the planet would be uninhabitable again. 10,000 people would die. Chi-Ho and Do-Yun led emergency teams to fix the processors. But whoever sabotaged them had done it well. Repair would take months. They did not have months. On Haniel Station, Nari faced a different battle. Evidence appeared showing the failures were caused by human error. Poor maintenance. Cutting corners. Prince Kale presented this evidence to the Galactic Council, demanding humans be removed from all major projects. They are reckless and incompetent, Kale said. They endangered thousands of lives with their primitive methods. This proves humans are not ready for galactic civilization. The council began voting on sanctions against humanity. Nari knew the evidence was fake. But she could not prove it. Not yet. She stood before the council, tiny compared to the massive aliens around her. I request an investigation before any votes are taken, she said. You would delay justice to protect your husband? Kale asked, his voice dripping with false concern. I would delay a mistake to find the truth, Nari replied. She had been gathering her own evidence. Messages between Kale and the saboteurs. Financial transfers. Security footage that had been deleted, but not completely. My brother claims humans are incompetent, Nari said. But the evidence shows something else. This was sabotage. Planned and executed by people who fear what New Dalbit represents. She displayed her evidence on the council screens. Messages between Kale and a Vorgoth mercenary group. Payments made to station workers. Security footage showing unauthorized access to the processors. New Dalbit is proof that cooperation works, Nari continued. That different species can build something together. That humans, despite being new and small, can contribute to the galaxy. Some people hate that idea. They want the old ways, where ancient empires rule and newcomers know their place. She looked at Kale. My brother is one of those people. He sabotaged New Dalbit to destroy human credibility. He was willing to kill thousands to protect his pride. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Kale tried to deny it, but the evidence was clear. An investigation was launched. On Dalbit, Chi-Ho worked a different kind of miracle. They could not fix the processors in time, but they could work around them. Using every backup system, every emergency measure, and some truly insane improvisations, they kept the atmosphere stable. Barely. Hana rewired the entire power grid to boost the remaining processors. Yoongi built supplemental oxygen generators using parts from ships. Do-Yun coordinated volunteers from every species on the planet, working together around the clock. For 3 weeks, no one slept. They just worked, fought, and refused to give up. When the investigation team arrived, they found New Dalbit still alive. Damaged, barely holding together, but alive. And they found a colony united. Humans and aliens working side by side, saving the world they had built together. The truth came out. Kale had paid mercenaries to sabotage the processors. He had created false evidence. He had been willing to commit mass murder to stop human progress. He was arrested. Emperor Tylan, faced with his son's crimes and his daughter's achievements, had to make a choice. The galaxy watched and waited to see what would happen next. 3 years had passed since the sabotage. New Dalbit was thriving now. Cities rose from the green landscape. Ships came and went daily, bringing new colonists and trade goods. The planet that was supposed to be impossible was now home to 50,000 beings from 15 different species. NAR. I stood at the window of her office, watching a Velen cargo ship land near a Krethian farming settlement. 3 years ago, those two species were ready to go to war. Now they were neighbors, sharing a world that humans had made possible. Her assistant, a young Tellan named Bora, knocked on the door. "Princess, the council delegation is here." Nari smiled. She did not use her title much anymore, but some people still insisted. "Send him in." 3 council members entered. A Nomian, a Brix, and a Krethian. They looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for council members. "Princess Nari," the Nomian said, "we have a proposal for you." "I am listening," Nari said. "The council has been watching New Dalbit closely," the Nomian continued. "We have also been watching your work over the past 5 years. Your trade networks, your diplomatic efforts, your success in bringing different species together." "Thank you," Nari said, wondering where this was going. The Brix leaned forward. "We would like to offer you a position. Ambassador for Collaborative Worlds. It is a new council seat, created specifically for species and groups that operate outside traditional empire structures." Nari blinked. "A council seat? You would represent colonies like New Dalbit," the Krethian explained. "Places where multiple species work together. You would have voting rights and diplomatic immunity. It is a full council position." This was huge. The council had not created a new seat in 200 years, and they were offering it to her. Tiny Nari, who had once been unwanted and invisible. "I need to think about this," Nari said. "Of course," the Nomian said. "Take your time." After they left, Nari sat in silence for a long time. A council seat. Real power. Real influence. She could help so many people from that position, but it would mean leaving New Dalbit, leaving the hands-on work she loved. And it would mean spending most of her time on the council station, far from Jiho. That night, she talked to Jiho about it. They sat on the balcony of their home, overlooking the city they had helped build. "You should take it," Jiho said without hesitation. "But it would mean—" "I know what it would mean," Jiho interrupted gently. "Long separations, you living on the council station while I manage things here. It would be hard." He took her hand. "But Nari, this is what you were meant for. You are brilliant at diplomacy. You understand how to bring different species together. You could do so much good from that position." "I do not want to leave you," Nari said. "You will not be leaving me," Jiho said. "We will make it work. Humans are good at solving impossible problems, remember?" Nari laughed despite herself. "You are sure?" "I am sure," Jiho said. "Take the seat. Change the galaxy. I will be right here, proud of you every single day." 2 weeks later, Nari accepted the council position. The ceremony was held on the council station, with representatives from every major species attending. She looked tiny standing at the podium, but her voice carried clearly. "I accept this position with gratitude and humility," she said. "I will work to represent all those who have been overlooked. The small colonies, the minor species, those who do not fit into the old power structures, but are building something new." In the audience, Emperor Talon sat with the Velen delegation. He did not smile, but he nodded once. It was the closest thing to approval Nari had ever received from him. Prince Kale was not there. He was serving time in a council prison for his crimes. He would be there for a long time. After the ceremony, Talon approached Nari. It was the first time they had spoken since the sabotage trial. "Daughter," he said formally. "Father," Nari replied. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. Then Talon spoke. I came to see your world, New Dalbit. I walked through the cities, spoke with the colonists, and Nari asked. It is impressive, Talon admitted. What you have built here, what the humans have achieved. He paused. I was wrong about many things. It was not exactly an apology. But coming from Emperor Talon, it was close. Thank you for coming, Nari said. It means something to me. Talon nodded stiffly and walked away. Nari knew they would never have a warm relationship. Too much had happened, too many years of dismissal and pain. But maybe they could have peace. Maybe that was enough. Jiho found her on the observation deck later. The same kind of deck where they had first really talked, years ago on Crossroads Prime. How are you feeling? He asked. Strange, Nari admitted. Everything has changed so much. Sometimes I can hardly believe it. Do you ever regret it? Jiho asked. Saying yes to me that night? Your life would have been simpler. Nari turned to him. Simpler? Maybe? Better? Never. She smiled. You gave me a chance when no one else would. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when I did not believe in myself. She took his hands. I was dying in that palace, Jiho, slowly disappearing. You saved me. We saved each other, Jiho said. I was just a traitor going nowhere. You made me think bigger. Dream bigger. Together we changed things. They kissed, and for a moment, the galaxy with all its politics and problems faded away. It was just the two of them, the way it had been in the beginning. The years that followed were not easy. Nari split her time between the council station and New Dalbit. The work was exhausting. Old empires resisted change. Conservative factions fought against every reform. Progress was slow and frustrating, but Nari kept pushing. She brought forgotten species into council discussions. She brokered deals that benefited colonies instead of just empires. She asked the questions no one else would ask. Why do we do things this way? Who does this help? Who does this hurt? Is there a better way? Slowly, things changed. More collaborative worlds were founded, modeled on New Dalbit. Trade networks expanded to include minor species. Council policies began to shift, just a little, toward cooperation instead of domination. Humans became a recognized power in galactic affairs. Not because they were strong or ancient, but because they were useful. They solved problems creatively. They took risks. They did not accept that anything was impossible. Other species started to imitate human methods, not just in terraforming, but in thinking, asking, why not? Instead of accepting, that is how it has always been. Nari watched these changes with quiet satisfaction. It was not a revolution. It was not perfect. But it was progress. 10 years after accepting the council seat, Nari returned to New Dalbit for a special ceremony. The planet was being officially recognized as a full member world of the Galactic Council. Not as part of any empire, but as its own independent entity. It was the first collaborative world to achieve this status. It would not be the last. During the ceremony, Nari stood with Jiho, Do-Yun, Hana, and Yoongi, the team that had started everything. They were older now, with gray in their hair and lines on their faces. But they were still together, still building things. We did it, Hana said, looking at the crowd of thousands. We actually did it. You sound surprised, Yoongi said with a laugh. I am always surprised when the crazy plans work, Hana replied. Do-Yun shook his head. The plan was never crazy, just ambitious. Same thing, Jiho said. They all laughed. That evening after the celebrations, Nari and Jiho walked through the city. They passed Velen and Krithian children playing together. They saw a Nomian teacher working with Tellan students. They heard a dozen languages mixing in the marketplace. Do you remember what you told me? Nari asked. That first night when you proposed? I said a lot of things, Jiho replied. I was nervous. You said you could not let me go to a labor colony, that it would be wrong. Nari smiled. You changed the galaxy because you could not stand to see something unfair. We changed the galaxy, Jiho corrected. You did just as much as me. More even. Together, Nari said. We changed it together. They reached the park at the city center. A statue stood there, erected by the colonists. It showed two figures, one small and one medium-sized, shaking hands. No names were on it. Just a simple inscription. Different species. Common dreams. New possibilities. Nari looked up at Jiho. No alien wanted me. But you said yes. And everything changed. You changed everything, Jiho said. I just gave you a chance to show the galaxy what you could do. We gave each other chances, Nari said. To be more than what we were. To build something better. She looked out at the city, at the world they had made possible, at the future they had helped create. The galaxy tried to decide what we were worth. They said you were a primitive. They said I was a defect. They were wrong, Jiho said. They were wrong, Nari agreed. And we proved it. Not by arguing or fighting, but by doing. By building. By helping. She leaned against him, comfortable and content. I still cannot believe sometimes that this is real. That we did all this. Believe it, Jiho said. This is real. You are a council ambassador. I run the biggest collaborative trade network in 3 sectors. We have changed galactic policy and created a new model for how species interact. He smiled. Not bad for an unwanted princess and a primitive human. Nari laughed. Not bad at all. They stood together as the sun set over New Dalbit, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Ships rose into the evening sky, heading to other worlds, carrying the seeds of what had been built here. The old galaxy was changing. Slowly, stubbornly, but changing. Ancient empires were learning that size and age did not guarantee wisdom. Minor species were finding their voices. Cooperation was becoming more common than conflict. It was not perfect. It never would be. There would always be people like Prince Kale, who feared change and fought against progress. There would always be obstacles and setbacks, but there would also be people like Nari and Jiho, people who asked, why not, when everyone else said, impossible. People who helped when it would have been easier to walk away. People who believed that things could be better got, and sometimes, in a big galaxy full of old hatreds and ancient rules, all it took was one person saying yes,